All right, guys. So unless you've been living under a rock, you should be aware that the House passed the $2,000 stimulus checks. Also, guys, keep in mind, this check also includes $2,000 for dependents as well. Okay, so at first they were talking about like $500 or $600 for dependents, but the Democrats had modified the bill before the vote to increase the amount for dependents too. So it's $2,000 for working Americans who are making less than $75,000 a year. And then it is also $2,000 per dependent. They passed that in the House yesterday, 275 to 134 vote. Most of the Democrats voting for it, most of the Republicans voting against it. Again, that's no surprise, but an overwhelming majority of the House wanted this to pass. And now it is sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk, and we're patiently waiting to see if he's going to take it up in the Senate. Now, this is interesting because, as we know, President Trump signed the original COVID relief package that is going to send Americans $600 after calling for Americans to get $2,000. So in my mind, I am thinking that after a long weekend of negotiating with the Republicans, that President Trump must have come to some backdoor deal with the Republicans, particularly Mitch McConnell, on signing the stimulus. And I hope that is in exchange for a Senate vote on the issue. And we're going to see. But as of right now, it looks like that Mitch McConnell is just holding his cards tight to his chest and not revealing his hand. However, it looks like Trump, along with the Democrats, may be forcing him to do so faster than he wants. But before we get in that, my name is Greg Foreman and you're watching A Black Conservative Perspective. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share. A Black Conservative Perspective, aka a leftist worst nightmare. You can also follow me on Twitter at GForemanBCP. Let's get it. All right, guys. So this year has been a weird year, 2020. And it's only right for it to get weirder as the political alliances that we're seeing line up right now are only getting weirder. Just to catch you guys up, just in case you don't know, Senator Bernie Sanders, aka Bolshevik Bernie, came out and gave a threat to McConnell and said, listen, Mitch, if you don't allow us to vote on this bill, I'm going to filibuster the vote on the NDAA. So keep in mind, guys, the National Defense Authorization Act was vetoed by President Trump. And yesterday, the House, with more than 2/3 majority, voted to override Trump's veto. Now that goes to the Senate for the Senate to try to override. Now, Mitch McConnell wants to go ahead and try to get this done today. He wants to expedite the process of overriding Trump's veto on the National Defense Authorization Act. However, Bernie Sanders is saying that, listen, I'm going to filibuster your attempt to vote on the NDAA if you don't take up a vote on the $2,000 stimulus checks. And guys, from a political analysis perspective, y'all may not like Bernie. I don't necessarily like Bernie, but this is how you play political hardball, guys. This is really how you play chess. Because if Bernie filibusters this, it keeps Congress in session. That means they can't go home, right? If they can't go home, Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue cannot campaign in Georgia this weekend because they're going to have to stay in the Senate, right? And if they have to stay in the Senate to deal with this, that leaves John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock in Georgia all weekend to campaign without their Republican counterparts campaigning against them in the last stretch of this Georgia race. So Bernie Sanders coming out with this threat is actually a big deal. This is actually playing hardball with McConnell, right? And it is a big deal, and it is a real threat because McConnell's plan is to vote on the NDAA, or at least what he has on his agenda as of right now when I'm making this video, is to vote on the NDAA, get that overridden, and then go home, right? Like into the new year, until the new Congress comes in session. That's what the plan is. But Bernie Sanders is trying to make them stay for the new year and get this done. And by the way, guys, isn't it weird how often these politicians take vacations. It seems like they come in, they work for a couple of days, and then they back at the house. I mean, how does that work? Why are they getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to basically do minimum work? But anyways, that's just me. So President Trump seems to support Bernie Sanders' filibuster idea, as he quote tweeted Nicole Alexander Fisher, who said that Senator Sanders will filibuster any attempt for the Senate to override Trump's veto for the NDAA until a vote for the stimulus increase to $2,000 is brought to the floor. This may force the Senate to stay in session until the new year. Like I told you guys, Trump quote tweeted this and said, "Give the people $2,000, not $600. They have suffered enough." So he basically comes out and is supporting what Sanders is doing. He ain't talking against it. He's just saying, "Yeah, I want the people to get $2,000, which by definition means I want a vote on the $2,000 stimulus." So this is, again, an unlikely kind of political alliance here, if that's what you would call it, between Trump and the far left with Bernie Sanders, and also, I mean, the Democrats too, because they're all on the same page. So this is kind of how you're seeing things shape up with politics right now. And this is why I told you guys to get your popcorn ready, because this was inevitable, right? Trump and the Republicans establishment have not been on the same page. So let's take a look in terms of how this is affecting the Republican senators, and if we're going to have enough numbers to get the vote. Because with this amount of pressure on McConnell, I think that ultimately he's going to cave to a vote. Now, by the time you see this video, we could have news that he has caved. He's expected to speak on the matter at noon today. So by the time this video comes out, it's probably going to be about that time. So things could change. Who knows? But Kelly Loeffler came out this morning and did an interview with Fox News. And let's see what she had to say about the stimulus.
Senator Loeffler, I know in the previous couple of weeks, both you and your Republican colleague, David Perdue, have been proud of the stimulus relief bill, the coronavirus relief bill that was passed. President Trump wanted more, though. He wanted more than $600 checks going to Americans. He wanted to increase that amount to $2,000. That's been passed now in the House. It's going to go to the Republican-controlled Senate. So will you support that bill, that encouragement from the president once it gets to the Senate?
Well, look, the president has fought for our country from day one. He continues to fight for every single American. I've stood by the president 100% of the time. I'm proud to do that. And I've said, absolutely, we need to get relief to Americans now, and I will support that. But look, here's the issue. Democrats have blocked relief time and again. That's why we're in this situation as a country. We've tried to pass that release since this summer. Nancy Pelosi, Bernie Sanders, they've admitted that they held it up because they were playing politics with the lives of Georgians and all Americans around this election. And we have to hold Democrats accountable on January 5th because that's what's on the ballot. Who's going to fight for the American people? That's what David Perdue and I have been doing since day one, and we're going to continue to do that.
So, Senator, it sounds like you'll vote to support the president's push for the $2,000 checks, but will you vote to override his veto, which will come up in the Senate soon, on the defense authorization bill?
Well, look, Griff, I have been proud to support our men and women in the military. President Trump has been a huge champion for our military in rebuilding it, in securing our national defense. And we're going to continue to make sure that we support our men and women in the military. But look, my opponent, radical liberal Raphael Warnock, has said that you can't serve God and serve in the military. That's wrong. That's an attack on our military. And he would be the first in line to stand with Chuck Schumer and cut funding to our military. Georgia is an incredibly important military state in this country, and I will always stand with our men and women in the military, and I thank President Trump for fighting for them.
All right, guys, so you heard it there. Kelly Loeffler is essentially saying that she now is in support of the $2,000 stimulus check. So I would imagine that if the vote is held, she's going to be a yes. I'm going to guess that David Perdue probably is going to be a yes. I mean, if he wants to keep his job, he should probably be a yes. And, you know, she also talked about the NDAA. She didn't really say whether or not she would vote to override President Trump's veto, but she said she stands with him 100%. So we'll see what she actually does with that. But moving forward here, guys, I really am starting to think that the Republicans have the votes in the Senate, guys. I really am. I mean, Josh Hawley has come out and said that he's in support of the $2,000 stimulus checks, in which he was working with Bernie to try to increase the $600 amount to $1,200 back before the second deal got done. He was working with Bernie on that. And then Marco Rubio also has come out and said that he supports the $2,000 payments to Americans as well. And remember, guys, Lindsey Graham has also been a strong proponent with the president on the $2,000 stimulus checks. So to me right there, guys, you know, you have 47 Democrats who Chuck Schumer say are all going to vote yes for it. And then you have Kelly Loeffler, who she says she's going to vote for it. If David Perdue wants to keep his job, he should probably vote for it. So I'm going to assume that's a yes. Josh Hawley, and you have Marco Rubio, Lindsey Graham. So that's 5 Republicans right there. And that means they will have 52 votes. That means you only need, if you assume those 5 Republicans are voting for it, that means you only need 8 more Republicans to vote yes on the $2,000 stimulus checks in order for this to pass, guys. That's what it means. The more I think about it and the more time that passes, I really do believe that if McConnell brings this to the floor, he's not going to let his Republican colleagues vote on this unless they're going to pass it. Because otherwise, it's really going to look bad for the Republicans. And they're really going to put a negative spotlight on a lot of senators who vote against this. Now, keep in mind, guys, in the House, there were a lot of Republicans that voted against it. However, in the House, guys, I mean, there's so many representatives that it can just kind of fly under the radar in the House, right? You can just kind of, you know, it's whatever, right? But in the Senate, there's only 100 senators. So if you vote no to something like this and you're the last step that's keeping people from actually getting $2,000, that's going to be a big deal. And people are not going to forget that. This is a very tangible vote that has an effect on people's lives. And getting some people relief, particularly those who've lost their jobs under no fault of their own because of a pandemic in which, you know, a lot of the Democrats forced their governments to shut down, right? And a lot of people have suffered because of that under no fault of their own. And if, you know, you come out and you vote against something like this, that's going to look bad, right? Now, the question is, will McConnell actually bring it to the Senate floor? My gut feeling is that I think he will, guys. And the reason why I think he will is because the pressure is mounting like crazy right now. With Bernie Sanders and other Democrats trying to filibuster. And then you also have President Trump pushing for this. And you have Georgia coming up next week. I also know, because McConnell said this in the past, that he really wanted the second stimulus because Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue were getting hammered in Georgia by their constituents over the stimulus. I think that his hand is going to be forced because everything right now for the Republicans is about keeping the Senate. And if they want to keep the Senate, the smart thing to do politically would be to get on board with this. And if he does not allow them to vote on this and the Democrats filibuster, ultimately, that's not just going to hurt them in terms of the perception in Georgia. That's also going to hurt them in terms of Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue being able to campaign in Georgia this weekend. If the Republicans want to keep the Senate, which I hope they do, I want the Republicans to keep the Senate, they need to get on board with the president. They got to stand behind the president on this issue, right? The NDAA, they don't necessarily have to stand behind the president on that because a lot of people do want, you know, military salary to increase. They'll swallow the pill because so many people support the military in this country. We'll swallow the pill on that. But this stimulus, this $2,000 stimulus, because it's so close and there's so much pressure, I think he's going to be forced to do it. Now, there is the option of him just being like, you know what? We only really need to win one seat and the polls are so close that we might gamble. He could also decide that as well. He may say, you know what? It's close enough. We only need to win one seat. We'll just gamble on this. We'll swallow it and see what happens. That's also a card that he could play. Or they could try to modify the bill in some way or combine the bill with certain issues. Like, for example, they might be able to say, you know what, we'll throw the Section 230 repeal in there that he knows that the Democrats and a lot of Republicans would not agree on, which then he could say, well, I brought it up for a vote. People didn't want to vote on it, but he could throw something in there that would make it so the politicians wouldn't want to vote on it. So the question is if he's going to bring the standalone bill to the floor, right? He may still bring the bill to the floor, but he may attach some other things to it. He may try to throw in some other pieces to try to throw off the vote, to say, well, I did bring it to the floor, but obviously the vote, there was a down vote on it. So there's a lot of moves that he can make. We'll have to see today when he actually comes out and speaks. But I do think there's going to be a vote on it in some way, shape, or form as of right now. But who knows? Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.